guys, what's going on? It's 2 minutes to review. It's Matt.
And it's Zach.
Longest album review in under 2 minutes wins this little game we play here. You click the picture. This is outside of our normal wheelhouse, but it is one of the biggest albums to hit store shelves this year, or streaming platforms, depending on where you're getting your music from these days. It is the brand new one from Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, that's right. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. If you're listening to this review, you already know how he is one of the biggest, well-renowned rappers of our time. And it's been 5 years since he released a proper release, and now he's back with a double album. Give you an idea of how anticipated this is. I mean, he really only gave less than a month's notice that he was even releasing an album. And it wasn't until the week of release that he even shared the cover or any of the full track list. He's the kind of artist that has made such a prolific impact in all of music and pop culture that literally anything he releases is going to get your attention, and for right reasons. And I know what you're thinking. It's been a little bit of time already since the album came out. Normally, Matt and Zach, you're so on top of it and reviewing albums so close to release date. I wish I could say it's because this double album was so in-depth and we really wanted to take the time to sit with it and really process it. Now, the truth is, I got a young family and we had a family vacation. I wasn't able to get to listen to it until more recently. But to give you an idea of how big this album is, we still felt, you know what, we wanted to give our 2 cents, or our 2 cents within 2 minutes. But before we get into it, I want to give a special shout out to Lucky 13 Beard Co.
We've been partnering with these guys for a long time now. Lucky 13 got some really great beard balms and oils. If you've never tried them before because you think, well, men don't need facial products, men don't need smooth skin. Yeah, well, we do. Newsflash. You're going to look good, feel good, and we're going to help you smell epic because we've got our own beard balm and oil with Ed and the guys. It's the Lemmy. It's everything Lemmy from Motorhead, embodied all in one little bottle. Bourbon, cola, leather, tobacco. You're going to smell great. You're going to feel great. And you're going to get 10% off. So when you go into the site, Lucky13, the number, beardco.com, throw it in your cart, put in the code EFP10 at checkout. It's just that simple. Anything in that cart, you get 10% off. Give it a try. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it, and you're going to love the way you smell because you're going to smell epic. The guys at Lucky 13 do a great job. So head on over to the site, Lucky13, the number, beardco.com. Use that code EFP10 at checkout.
So, Matt, would you be surprised if I told you I wanted to give a shot first?
Surprised? No. Expecting it? Yes. Unoriginal? Absolutely.
Well, count me down then, buddy.
3, 2, 1, go.
For an artist who uses his voice to really echo what's going on in society, it's a little surprising at how personal of an album this is. He really captures in a raw and brutally honest way a lot of his own personal struggles and his own shortcomings. It really, ultimately, as long of an album as it is, the recurring theme is how it's a man trying to evolve himself, but acknowledging that he needs to recognize his own flaws and faults and learn from those flaws and faults. And there's definitely going to be moments when you're listening that kind of make you feel a little uncomfortable. This song, We Cry Together, it plays out more as an awkward play than it does a song, but it's at the same time beautiful to kind of see the realness of it. And then songs like Auntie Diaries, its use of the F word will make you blush, but you realize the more you listen to it, there's a reason behind it. It shows how it's okay to admit that things you thought were cool and acceptable as a kid are not acceptable today. And it's what you do now to make up for that. And then even just a song like Worldwide Steppers, only Kendrick could be someone who can, an artist like Kendrick could make a song about basically screwing white women into a political statement and into just a actual raw personal thought. In general, I mean, there's a lot of great songs in here and personal ones. It's a heavy album, though. This is not a light, fun listen. If you don't like getting uncomfortable with your music, this album's probably not for you. It's probably going to be very polarizing for most fans. But it really does, in my mind, solidify Kendrick Lamar as one of the more thoughtful MCs of his time.
And we have your time. And what is your star rating out of 5?
I feel like, so I'm torn between 3.5 stars and 4 stars. I'm leaning towards 4 right now, but I also fully acknowledge that over time, I might not look on this album as fondly. It's a polarizing album. I can definitely see, it's one of those albums that I understand it might make people too uncomfortable, but I personally I'm leaning towards 4 because I think it really does showcase his talent. And it's funny, Eminem recently gave this album a lot of praise. I was kind of thinking back to when we did a 2 minutes review episode where we revisited the Marshall Mathers album, and how I was taken aback by his use of pretty bad language. And in some ways, I was kind of getting memories of that with Kendrick Lamar. But what made the difference is that Eminem in 2001 was using, 2000 was using that kind of language for immature humor, whereas Kendrick Lamar was using that language in a, dare I say, sophisticated way to really drive down a point about, well, it's a personal album that I feel like so many can relate to, which is what kind of makes this album special. I think that's the word too, is that it's a special album. It's probably not going to be something that's on my heavy rotation, or an album I'm going to give heavy rotation, but it's a special album, and I think it's one that I think a lot of people are going to resonate with. So I'm leaning towards 4. And with that, Matt, are you ready to give your 2 cents in under 2 minutes?
That's going to be your new catchphrase, isn't it?
I think I like it.
You and your pizzazz can count me in.
I feel like we're talking about one of the coolest, hippest artists right now, and we are just sounding like the biggest nerds on this episode. It's
yeah, probably.
Kind of ironic. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
3, 2, 1, go.
So I'll admit it. I'm not the biggest fan of Kendrick Lamar or any new school hip hop, because I'm stuck in the good old 90s and the early 2000s. When it comes to Kendrick Lamar in this album, I really kind of feel like you could draw some comparisons to Eminem early on in his career with, the heaviness of certain songs and the way that things feel like he's trying to walk you through like some of the hardest times in his life. And Zach did say some of this, and I have seen other reviews that do say the same thing, that Kendrick Lamar there is a track on here for every single feeling that you could possibly have. If you're going through something, chances are you're going to find it on here. Now, whether or not they're all good songs, that's a whole nother story. Like, there's some very avant-garde, almost spoken word performances on tracks like United in Grief, We Cry Together, or Auntie Diaries. I love the fact that on N95, it's not only kind of like a reference to the N95 masks that we've been wearing, but also talking about what happens when you get rid of all of your material possessions and strip you back to the bare essence of who you are, the mask that you're wearing. What gets you, who are you after that? Well, fake. He says a lot. Everything's fake on this track, and it's one of my favorites on the album. But when Kendrick does actually get into a good flow on the album, on like Die Hard, which is really an awesome track that has almost like a Wyclef Jean type vibe, he really gets going, and it really feels like an awesome album when you hit these particular tracks like Rich Spirit, Count Me Out. They're really cool. A few tracks also have that 90s vibe on it, which I really kind of appreciated. In Father Time, which is like a Nas type track. And then Worldwide Steppers almost had like a Wu-Tang type vibe. And also the production kind of lended itself to these types of songs, because they had a very almost like lo-fi vibe on the production of the album. So it seemed to really work on there. And then kind of the only other things that I really didn't like about the album really was that there's moments of laziness, like on Worldwide Stepper, that for the sake of shock value, he says some things on that track that are really like, you couldn't figure out anything else to say, so you said that, really? But all in all, if you're looking for one, like a very heavy album that is going to get you through some things, or just to let you know that somebody feels the way you do, this album's for you.
Time locked in. Out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
3.5. Yeah, there's no way that I'm going to go 4-star. I mean, this isn't an album, and you kind of alluded to it. This isn't an album that you throw on your playlist and just listen to it, because you want to hear it. I guess some people would have said that about like the song like Stan from Eminem or any of the really heavy tracks that Eminem put out. I guess maybe you could possibly put it on there, but I feel like Eminem and, other heavy tracks from like the early 2000s or the 90s, at least there's like a good musical vibe to it. I feel like there's certain things on this album, for some reason, it just doesn't feel very musical at times. It feels, like I said, there are spoken word performances on here almost, but when the music just doesn't connect, it misses big, in my opinion. And people are going to be like, well, you don't understand it, and you don't understand Kendrick Lamar, or you're being overly critical, or you just don't get it. Maybe I don't, but I'm straight up saying it now that I went back when I was listening to this, and the songs that I compared to like Nas or Wu-Tang or Wyclef, I went back and I listened to make sure that this is really what I was remembering and remembering it correctly. And I was. And, listening to Cream from Wu-Tang, that song is a very lo-fi song, but it's got a very good vibe to it. And the music on there and the hook on there on the beat, it's just really, really good. And I can't say, anything bad about it. But for as many times as I listen to these songs from Kendrick, I have a very hard time just remembering the music that goes along with it, because it's more about the vocal impact. Like I feel on a heavy song like Stan from Eminem, you had the Dido musical piece to kind of bring you up out of the darkness a little bit of what Eminem is talking about throughout that whole song. And I feel like that piece was missing from Kendrick's album. I mean, there are great moments on here. There's no doubt about it. And everything that I said about it being good is true. It's just, for me, when you miss kind of big, or it just left me scratching my head saying, well, what am I actually listening to? Because I can't find a beat. I can't find a rhythm. Like, your vocal pattern may be fine, but the music it's going to, or the beat and the speed it's going to, it doesn't match. But then again, I'm not a hip hop expert. I just know what I like, and I just know what I hear.
Honestly, all fair points. All fair points. And to the point, so much so that I think rather than just dwell on it any further, let's get to what really matters. The times. So, Matt, what was my score? What time did I come in on?
1 minute and 55 seconds.
Ooh. Well, guess what, Matt?
Yeah, I know I went over 2 minutes.
Don't call it a comeback, because you are at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, which means I won.
Finally won.
Woo! Cue in the balloons. Cue in the celebration music. The champion has returned. I sound so nerdy during this episode. Well, while I go ahead and get back to my own personal celebration, we want to know what you thought of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Are we completely off? Are we missing the point? Or do you agree with our opinions on this album? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel to hear more episodes like this, as well as some cool videos, dare I say. And once again, thank you to our sponsors, Lucky 13 Beard Co. Once again, go to lucky13beardco.com, use the code EFP10 to get 10% off of your orders, including our very own lemon-inspired beard oil. You're going to smell great, we promise you. Also, thank you to Rootless Coffee, based out of Flint, Michigan. They really create some interesting coffees. They break free from boredom. That's their slogan. It's so true. And then not only do they create their own interesting blends of coffee, but they work with all types of artists, local charities, comic book writers, even professional wrestlers, like the famous Dad Hansen from AEW, on their own special coffee brands. Go to rootlesscoffee.com, use the code EPICROAST, all caps, and get 15% off your orders. It's pretty damn cool, dare I say. So once again, Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you join us for another episode real soon.
See ya.